order. It looks like we have 4 folks here, so we have a quorum. And let's start this morning with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I think we have a roll call, please, Mary.
Present.
Mr. Deacon is excused. Ms. Gaba is excused. Gardner?
Here.
Mr. Parmelo is excused. Thomas? Here. Watson?
Here.
4 present. There's a quorum.
Excellent. So at this time, let's receive the Budget Committee recommendations for the capital budget.
You bet. So, all have a copy of the letter I handed out this morning. Not signed. Your copies aren't signed. Mary's are, so hers is the official. We had no recommendations for a line item. We accepted everything as the council moved it forward with the amendments. We're all set with that. Have any questions? It's just no recommendations for capital.
Anybody have any questions for the Budget Committee? No. Okay.
No.
Thank you.
So I still have the operational budget. When we get that, we've already looked at a little bit what was done last week. So we will be coming with recommendations for some of those line items. And also when the operational budget comes back with any recommendations under a separate letter, I'll be listing suggestions that the council would like to see in the budget to make the presentation more user-friendly for review. Oh, no.
Okay, thank you. At this time, let's review do the review of the revenues in the operating budget. Which is page 3. Turn it over to Scott.
We forgot to do this on March 1st. Non-tax, property tax revenues, for excise tax, we have in there for vehicles 2.2 million, which was approved last year as well. And boats 25,000. Makes up the non-property tax revenue portion. Then for intergovernmental, we have the snowmobile reimbursement, which is a pass-through. So we receive money from the state, which we then pass on to the Snowmobile Association. That we don't know what that amount's going to be, but we have to have enough in there. So we have the amount in revenue, and we also have the amount in the expenses, in the donations portion. So we can pass that on to them. That's $3,700. State revenue sharing, this comes from the state website, and at last check, it was expected that we would receive $1,374,479. Estimated 190,000 of local road assistance, based on what we collected last fiscal year. Tree growth, this is always around 90,000, so this is an estimated amount, and then when we receive it, it's adjusted, because we receive it after fiscal year end from the state. Same with veterans tax loss reimbursement. We received $6,100 last year, estimated $6,000. This is new renewable energy reimbursement. This is a new item in the tax assessor's computation for the tax commitment. So I've estimated $99,555. We'll see what he calculates this year in the commitment. General assistance, $48,321. The Betty reimbursement, which is the business equipment tax exemption, $35,015, and that's a formula. And the homestead exemption, $573,680. That's also a calculation based on during the commitment by the tax assessor. Under license and permits, $4,000 for dog licenses. Building permits, $250,000. CEO consulting fees, this is an amount we raise in the CEO's budget and also here in the revenue. It's a wash, so there's no hit on the tax rolls or on the tax computation. For $2,000, both on the expense and the revenue side. Marriage permits, $2,500. Burial permits, $50. Municipal permits, $4,000. Plumbing, $25,000. We approved 23 this year, and those permits are coming in well, according to our review and finance committee. Septic permit, $25. Advertising fee, $500. Gravel inspection fees, we budget $10,000 in the planning department as well as in the revenue, so it again does not raise taxes, and that's to pay the gravel fees that we receive here in revenue for the gravel pits. Recycling revenue, $26,000. Transfer station user fees, $90,000. I was a little conservative on that. Based on when the end of the fiscal year falls, June 30, depends on whether we bring in a lot of money in one fiscal year or the other fiscal year, so I try to be a little conservative there. Transfer station sticker fees, $95,000. Sports license, RV agent fees, $3,000. And medical marijuana and caregiver, $1,500 apiece. Charges for services, passport services, $15,000. Motor vehicle agent fees, $40,000. We received $45,000 for that in FY24. Birth certificate, $2,000, and then $500 for any additional. Death certificates, $1,000, and $2,000 for any additional. And then marriage certificates, $1,000, and then $500 for any additional of those. Animal control fees, $800. Office fees, $5,000. We had $3,000 budgeted in the current fiscal year. Boat launch services, $25,000. We received $26,000 in FY24. Planning board fees, I budgeted 50,000, we received 36 in FY '24. With the increase in, buildings in town, we expect that those, fees would go up. Cable TV, 120,000, we received 119 in FY '24. And I thought maybe FY '25's budget of 125,000 might be a little too much, so I reduced it a little bit. Impact fees, 65,000. This also depends on which subdivisions get completed in the fiscal year, so it could be $5,000, it could be 120,000. It just depends. So, we had 113,000 in FY '24. I budgeted about half of that. Impact fees for recreation and impact fees for public safety. These are the new impact fees, where we expect a lot of building, and for every building they have to pay these impact fees. So I budgeted 335,645 for recreation and 194,648 for public safety. Appeals board 800. Non-EMS public safety fees, 500. Municipal service revenue, this is the fee we get for property tax in lieu of property. Basically, tax money in lieu of taxes. It's a fee that we charge, that we receive based on revenue of a certain business in town, and that's $4,000. EMS revenues, this is a formula based off of well, 521,000. We had collected 577,000 last year. Only budgeted 442,000. I thought that was a little low. So I raised it to 521,000. Subscription fees 35,000, and EMS services 114,000. Rich Memorial Beach, 20,000 for beach passes. And then 8,000 for the boating club. What they pay, that's $8,000. Penalties and interest, tax and lien interest. We received 32,000 in tax and lien interest in FY '24. I budgeted 33,000 for this budget. The lien notice fees received 10,700. I raised that to 12,000. And then ordinance fines, we received $25 for that, so I budgeted $100. Investment interest, with rates coming in better than in the past, we received 187,000 in investment interest in FY '24. With now rates starting to come back down, I've backed off the projection from 100,000, which we have received 100% in FY '25. I backed it down to 90,000 for this budget in FY '26. Leases and rentals, we received 17,950 in FY '24. I budgeted 17,000. Donations, we didn't receive any, but I budgeted $100. Sometimes we get some miscellaneous donations. Miscellaneous revenues, I budgeted 500. That's basically anything that does not fit into any other category. Sometimes we get fees from the state that don't fit into any other category, so that's where this gets posted. So I budgeted 500. We may not get any. And then the MMA refunds we receive for workers' comp, unemployment, and insurance that we get back for having a safe organization as far as workers' comp, and I budgeted, we received 4,600 for workers' comp, I budgeted $4,000. And we received $5,500 for unemployment, I budgeted $5,000. Then for use of surplus, I budgeted $500,000 to reduce the mill rate a little bit. And then proceeds from bonds, this comes from the capital budget. I've budgeted $2,885,331. So for a total non-property tax revenue, we have $10,268,129. They can answer any questions.
Questions from the council for Scott on the revenues? Go ahead.
The sticker fees for the transfer station, is that at the rate of $25 or is that at the expected increase?
I believe that's at the $25.
Other questions from the budget or from the council?
Sorry, I have one more.
Sure.
Can you explain how the impact fee revenue works on this?
So, when somebody buys a permit,
I'm sorry, let me clarify. I understand when it comes in.
Okay.
So if we have impact, I'll clarify my question. So if we have impact fee revenue in the budget, do we still have to bond for expenses if we don't have that money?
No. I will use whatever impact fees we have. The finance committee will have to direct me on how much to use. I don't know if we're gonna have to use the 100% of what we get for that fiscal year. That hasn't been decided yet.
So is that like an ongoing thing that we keep an eye on?
Yes, yeah, that should continue as much as anyone buys a building permit. We'll put that money in reserve and then use it. So we won't bond for the items. I won't borrow the money.
Okay, thank you.
That's the bottom line.
That helps, thank you.
Any other questions from the council so far? I'll turn it over to the budget committee. Lisa, go ahead.
I just have a couple. On page 3, the renewable energy reimbursement, is that being overzealous based on the current situation in Washington? And it says it's a new item. Has that money already been promised to us? Has that already been distributed? Or is that something that was new before January 20?
That was something new in this past FY25 budget that had to be accounted for in the tax commitment as a budgeted item. I don't know if we'll actually receive that money. I don't know what's going to happen in Washington. But it is used as part of the calculation.
Does it need to be that high? I'd hate to overestimate and then get $5. That's just based on the current administration. I do not see that happening, to be honest.
It can be reduced to 0.
Yeah, we can discuss that. I just
that would be fine.
I'd hate to pad by $100,000 and then them say.
I mean, to be honest, this is a new item that the assessor has to do, so I don't really understand too much about it. Other than that, it wasn't in the budget in last year, and it was when he did the tax commitment. He had to account for them. So I don't know. I guess the answer.
Okay.
You're not going to get that. I mean, we could be conservative. I tend to be conservative. We could drop it down.
It's open for discussion. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I honestly, from what I've been witnessing, I don't see that happening. So that might be something that we want to discuss. And then my second question was on page 4, you started to mention the formula or the algorithm you use for the EMS revenue, $500,000, but you didn't say the formula.
Yeah. Okay, so that I took 80% of what we've spent, or what we've taken in to date through 7 months of the current year.
All right, thank you. And then one final question, down under other revenue, the investment interest.
Yes.
Again, I know that you've decreased it a lot, but with the direction that we're heading right now, is 90,000 an overestimate for interest?
I don't think so, because I don't think rates are gonna be in the 1% area. I mean, we're still over 4%. So I think that's a safe estimate.
Steve, you have some questions?
Well, yeah, just two. One was more of a comment. So on page 3, going back to the impact fees, the first one listed, is that the original road impact fee?
Sorry, Steve, what was that?
So on page 3 for the impact fees, the first one listed, is that one the original one that's for the roads?
Yes.
Then maybe we can make a dash roads next to it, since we have 2 new impact fees, so we can just,
Sure, yeah.
for the future, we can delineate that.
For all the subdivisions.
Yeah.
We take in money.
Yeah, so, because we have multiple impact fees now. And then on page 4, other finance sources, we are not spending or have nothing there. That has typically been use of TIF funds. So my question, we've usually used TIF funds to pay, I think, some of the salary for the director in planning. So we are no longer using those TIF funds anywhere in our operating budget.
The way the accounting works now, any TIF funds that we use the expense has to be posted in the TIF fund, so it doesn't actually show up here. We are still using it.
Okay, so that's been a change in the accounting.
Correct.
So we wouldn't see TIF funds being reported.
Correct.
As a
I was
revenue.
bringing in the money from the TIF fund into the operational budget to offset like his salary, for instance. But now I have to move that expense to the TIF fund, so it doesn't actually impact the operating budget.
Okay, I'll have probably a follow-up question
The money
during
doesn't
our
come in,
negotiations, because I don't see that. If we're still paying part of the director's in planning salary, I don't see that there in that line item. That it's being shifted there.
Right.
But we can discuss that later. It's Saturday. People want to go home.
Any other questions from the budget committee? Lisa?
I would like to recommend that renewable energy reimbursement be reduced. Just because of the current situation. If possible, if no one else has a problem with that, I would just feel better.
You guys think about that recommendation? Council members? Scott?
I guess you could bring that as a recommendation with all your recommendations,
All right,
Yep.
thank you.
and then
Do it that way. Yep. Any other questions from the budget or from the council this morning on the revenue? Okay,
I think we did a good job in looking at everything. I'm looking at a couple here too, but I'm satisfied as much as we're through.
okay. Thank you. Yes,
Izzy Higgins, 215 Bonnie Eagle Road. Could you repeat, please, into the microphone, the property tax revenue? We got 10 million something.
yes, the total for non-property tax revenue was
No.
10 million.
Property tax or non-property?
Non-property tax.
Non-property tax, okay. Was 10 million what?
10,285,129.
Okay. So this was everything except property taxes in this particular Did I miss that?
This is everything except property.
Property taxes, okay. And while I'm up here, the Budget Advisory Committee has put recommendation forward to the school board. So that will be in negotiations. And I can provide you with a rough copy of what we've put forward so far. So that's another consideration that will be coming up. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd just like to make an update to the revenue. I just noticed it because it's a formula based off capital. Since there were changes in capital, the amount in here has changed. So for the line for proceeds from bond, page 4, it's now $2,902,331, which has changed the bottom line to what I just mentioned, $10,285,129.
You got that one?
Thank you, Scott, for that update. Going up in that category is good.
What was that? What?
Can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, so which one?
The bond, proceeds from bond?
Proceeds from bond went up to 2,902,331. Which increased the,
I got that one.
okay. So we're up 17,000. Great. There was one, we'll discuss this as a council, this morning. One request from the budget committee is if we could, not pass operating budget to them today and wait to do that Wednesday when we do the donations. So that would then push everything back several more days on the entire schedule. So I wanted to open that up to discussion on the council here. And if Scott wants to go over that, how that would affect the schedule more so everybody can hear it. I think that would be good, but just wanted to.
So if we pass that, if we don't pass it on today and we wait till the 19th, the 14 days that then goes out to April 2nd, which is a Wednesday night. That's what it would do, unless the budget committee wanted to do it on the 29th, and that would be shorter amount of time.
They were shortening their time to discuss the donations, but.
Correct. So I guess it's up
Right.
how you'd like it.
Steve.
I'm the one who made the request. I mean, I certainly see with the changes in law why we're separating out the capital. But donations is part of the operating budget. So, once you give us donations, we still technically by charter have 2 weeks. So we can, in that time, give you the recommendations for the full operation budget, which would include donations. So it doesn't gain you anything by passing the operational budget now. You still can't officially do anything with the full budget until we come back with donations. It still falls within the timeline. Now, if you do everything by next Wednesday, we have to give you the recommendations on Wednesday. You don't have to enact everything on Wednesday. We just have to email them to you. You can meet on another day in April. You have until May in Scott's timeline. He has May 13th, council approves remaining budget at regularly scheduled council meeting if applicable. That's your very end date for the operating budget. Now he'll want to have that done at least 10 days prior, and I understand there's a reason for that. So you don't have to meet that Wednesday. You can meet a week later, maybe your workshop happens and so forth. So, but for me as a council member, I want to look at all of the operational budget, and that includes donations, because I look at the full scope, not just a piece with this piece out or that piece out. I understand why capital has to be taken out. It'd be nice to have the whole thing together.
What's the desires of the council this morning? That's
That
my
makes
question.
sense to me. I'm fine with that.
So then do we not want to meet on Saturday, the 29th? Would we like to make another date?
Move.
It'd be April 2nd
Yeah, Wednesday, April 2nd would be 14
instead of
days.
Saturday.
It's a Wednesday night.
Well, I'm
April
really
2nd.
good with that.
Yeah.
I don't have to come in on a Saturday morning. I'll come in on Wednesday night. I ain't doing anything.
That's fine with
Have
me.
you folks
Gives us more
got
time. I mean, gives you more
done
time.
everything for that, what you got?
Pardon?
Have you gone through everybody as far as the recommendations for that you were talking about?
He's our chair, so.
Is,
Yeah, I'd go along with.
So we would delete this.
Donations and operation of the budget same time.
We'll have a regular donation scheduled on the 19th. We'll delete the Saturday the 29th and do everything on Wednesday the 2nd. Is that what I'm hearing?
how's Scotty feel?
Okay, let's do that.
Do we need to make a motion? Or?
All in favor of making that change? Okay, so moved. That works.
So,
Hey.
so, you would have to amend your order at Wednesday night meeting to move the operational budget,
right.
not just.
Yep.
You've already.
Yeah.
Then I know. Preaching to the choir.
Right. Yes, go ahead.
So we can just be prepared, what is Wednesday night gonna look like for us and compared to last year? So you're expecting people that have requested donations to be here and present what they are asking for, why they're asking for it, and what they do in our community? And then on the council side, budget, like, what does it look like for you guys as far as your decisions and all of that?
I'll answer what I know and correct me if I'm wrong. There was no notification that went out to the people that requested donations. They had to go online, fill out an application. In that, they were stated if you don't come to the donation meeting, you're disqualified from receiving a donation. That's right here. So yeah, it says you must return this request by the date, and the orders must also provide details and how the money was spent, and so on and so forth. So if they don't meet all those requirements, and then we had just a little bit of a discussion that we will be making either choosing to or choosing not to fund that donation on Wednesday, and if we choose not to, maybe tell them we'll do this much instead of this much. Also, so just so we don't have another meeting of discussing that.
So you guys are gonna, in front of them, with them standing there again, say yes or no? That, my concern, and we've mentioned this for several years, that plays on the sympathy. So it's hard to make a number decision when they're standing right there begging for money for, children, or begging for money for, it's hard to be objective. Thank you. Is there any way, what's the problem with having them present and then taking all the information and saying, we'll get back to you after we review? Because they're up there for 5 minutes and you take 3 or 4 minutes to say yes or no. It's not a lot of consideration involved there. And this is not the first time that we've requested this not happen face to face.
Terry always was very hard to do what you have back up here. To be able to do that and see that figure, it's hard for her area.
Exactly. It's hard to be objective when they're standing right there, giving
Exactly.
you the story.
Yeah. And you hear about it later.
Hear about it later. Hear about what later?
The money that they're looking for, and they've already got it.
Yeah. So
Being on the other side of that, I appreciate hearing the council feedback at the time that the
Oh, yeah.
presentation is made.
feedback is good, but then get back to them after so that you guys can take time to look at the numbers, see who's asking for what, who spent what.
Right, but that's the whole point of having the packet now,
Hmm.
is that we can review that in advance of the meeting and be prepared to ask questions.
Do we have access to that packet? Do we have that today? Okay,
it's
good.
right.
Perfect.
We done.
John, you had something to say.
Yeah, I mean, I know on the other side, on being part of organizations asking for money, it's nice to hear just get an answer, so you don't have to worry about waiting. I understand your point. I can definitely see it. For me, I have no issues already reading ahead, knowing what it is and stuff, and then getting the story, ask some questions. I can cipher through my mind quick enough to know if I think it's if I'm going to go yes or no. I don't need to have another meeting to do it, but that's just my opinion. I don't know if anybody else feels the same way.
Questions over there.
I'm gonna give you my 2 cents. It's your procedure, so go with what you want to do. So I don't know if you're going to listen to what they say, make your decision and move on, or you're going to listen to everybody and then go through. But if you did that, they hear yes, and then they leave. But you may go through and say, wow, we increased our donations by X amount. Well, wait a minute, looking at the total budget, that's too much. We have to go back and then make adjustments.
Yep.
So now there's an adjustment made, they don't hear, but they think they've got this amount. But that's still not approved for them, because they still have to get our recommendations. Now, typically, council does not, we don't always make a lot of changes to the budget to donations. It's a very personal thing, and council generally does not accept any budget committee changes to donations because it's a donation. But truly, that donation is not set in stone until town meeting in June. I don't think a lot of the donation people will know that. And there were some surprises for a couple donation people. They thought they got the money, then they didn't get the money, and they were upset. So that's just to me, it's your process.
Case in point, last year we had someone come up and make a request, and one of the council members said, "Oh, this is a great thing. It's a great thing. I'm going to give you extra money," because they were standing there. I'm going to give you extra money. So it went down as council giving on paper more than what they had asked for. And in budget committee, we had to go, I don't know why that happened. They requested X amount. Why are they getting X plus Y? And it's because of the emotional situation. So if they don't get that money that they were said they're going to get, it's not a good image.
John.
Very good points. And I guess I would make or I would say that you could give a disclaimer before the donation meeting that whatever, if we give you a yes or whatnot for a certain amount, that if you end up leaving, or that it's not set until June, that, things could change after we give our, you know what I'm saying? Like, kind of like give a disclaimer to everybody that's here asking for money, saying, hey, this, even though you get a yes or with amount, it could change later on after it goes through the budget committee. So they know to expect changes if possible that could come down later.
Izzy, you've been going to the school board meetings. I've watched you on TV. What's your feelings right now? Can you give us a pro look at
School budget?
Yeah.
I have not been going to school board meetings, but I'm coming.
I've also, Todd sends me the budget and I send that all to you. So in your email is an update from the school.
So you got this from.
I can't see that far, but potentially, whatever they send me, I've been forwarding.
The Budget Advisory Committee has forwarded a preliminary recommendation for the school budget. But that's all it is just recommendations. And they're And the process is such that that amount and funds can still be manipulated somewhat in terms of how they are spent. We are not allowed as an advisory committee to say, I don't want to spend it on this, I want to spend it on that. But there is a preliminary budget. If he sent that paper to you that we signed Thursday night, then that has the preliminary information as to how it will, the currently recommended budget, which has to still go through the finance committee for the school board and the school board before it goes to all the other preliminary and final public votes, and how it will affect the tax rates in all 5 of the towns.
Thank you.
Getting back to the donation stuff, what's the council's wishes? I don't think we need to have an answer now, but do we want to make decisions Wednesday, or do we want to have a separate meeting? So we can give the budget some sort of direction, and Ms. Heidi Watson has a question.
Was it the finance committee that made that? Well, it doesn't matter really where, but if it's policy, it's policy. I just want to say that I really appreciated having the donations tab in our binder this year when we got our binder, knowing who requested money right at the beginning. So thank you for that. I've seen some improvement in, well, I've only been on the committee for a year, but improvement in things that we asked for last year, steps towards those suggestions. So I'm thankful for that, to the staff and finance department for working on those things. So thank you for having, I know that we had asked for these also, so I'm thankful to have that today. And I think from here till Wednesday, like I've already looked at the donation section, so I know who's asking for money, but the why they're asking for money, it should be in here. So thank you for all of that.
You're welcome.
I mean,
Is it, sorry,
No, go
is
ahead.
it possible for you guys to hear their requests and then possibly, excuse me, if you hear their requests and then you make a decision after, like you could go into executive session or something after to make your decisions on those requests? Is that a possibility? And then hand it over to us? Maybe the budget committee already knows, or finance knows exactly what, and I'm just
Have an
new.
executive session for
Have
that.
a session for that.
But you're right. They could present and we could tell them like, thank you, like we'll discuss later, and hopefully they would leave, but we can't have an executive session.
Thank you.
Yes, sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Always had 29 faculty
Well, thank you.
inside.
We could just do it on Wednesday. We can just.
So for me, in my opinion, we just make a disclaimer that, hey, we're going to consider everything. We'll give them an answer, and things could change. We have other meetings. It's going to the budget committee, and then you'll get a final answer when we get a final approval of the budget, and we can just
Final
get it done while we're already there instead of dragging things on.
Or
One more, the front page of the packet has a lot of organizations listed. There are a lot that don't have amount requested. So are they going to be held to what you said? If they didn't send this paperwork in and they just show up, they're gonna be told,
it's too bad, so sad.
And so what we did too is anyone who participated in the process last year, when we gave them their check, we made them aware that we've changed our process. We've had several calls. I've received calls, finance have received calls, and we've told them we've updated our process. It's been online ever since our budget meeting, so we've directed them to the website to fill out the form. So sorry, but this is our new process. So we feel like we've caught most people. I'm sure we may have one show up, but I mean, we shouldn't be tooting our horn, come to town and we're gonna give you money.
I have a question on this. Under miscellaneous associations in our binder on page 205, the Sioux Falls Clinic says it requested $15,000. I don't see that $15,000 on this top page of this.
They withdrew it.
Withdrew their request.
Thank you.
The only thing that they did request, they called me and said they're withdrawing their request. They're gonna be cutting some trees, and they wanna know if we could do some in-kind with, maybe a stump grinder, grinding some of the brush, and I thought the Public Works Director could probably work with them, helping them with grinding some brush or something, but that was the only thing that they had asked me if, possibly by withdrawing this, that they could, use a man for a day and a piece of equipment. I didn't think that was an issue, but I don't, what do you think?
Community supporting all the other organizations in the community. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
So I think we want to make a decision on donations that evening. I want to give an answer to the budget committee today. That was your question. So
Yeah, my preference is we do it that night, whether we take in all the information and at the end we make our decisions,
Okay.
or we make them as we go. My preference would be to do it that night.
do it that day. I know you do it that day, John.
We just do an all in favor on that and then go from there.
I think that would, right, it would be, have to say, yes, we accept it, vote on it.
No
Or
problem.
amend it for a number. Bill, I know you just walked in, but what do you think?
Yeah, we used to work till 8, 9, 10 at night. I mean, this getting in at 6 thing, we gotta be on at 7:30. Yeah, I would rather push it through in one night and not have to, even if it takes an extra hour, so.
So I concur, so we'll just make a decision that evening, whether we do it at that time or we let everybody go and then just walk through and decide what the donation's gonna be and choose, but it'll be done that evening. Okay. Very good. We do need to have a roll call to receive the budget committee recommendations. But I see Mary is not in here.
We have Miss Angela.
Great.
Do you want me to go ahead and read it first or just?
Yeah, go ahead.
roll call?
Please read.
Please read it, yep.
All right, receive the budget committee's recommendations on the FY '26 capital budget, whereas the special joint town council budget committee meeting held on March 1st, 2025, thorough review of the FY '26 capital budget was completed by the town council and budget committee. And whereas the town council forwarded the FY '26 capital budget to the budget committee on March 1, 2025, pursuant to the provisions of the town charter, and whereas the budget committee has returned comments on the FY '26 capital budget, now be it ordered that the budget committee's budget recommendations are hereby received and Standish Town Council has reviewed and considered the comments from the budget committee. Now therefore be it ordered that the town council votes on the budget committee's recommendations. Further ordered that the FY '26 capital budget is hereby approved. And we'll go ahead and do a roll call. I'm good? Okay. Christie?
Yes.
Deacon? Oh, excused. Gaba is excused. Gardner?
Yes.
Carmelo?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
And Watson?
Yes. And then,
5. We have 5 yeses.
For order 3225, for the operating budget, we'll have to make a motion to table that until whatever date we said we were going to table it to hear that.
I move that we table order number 3225 to Wednesday, March 19th meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Let's have all in favor of, actually, let's do a roll call on that to table it till next meeting.
Yeah, sure. Christie?
Yes.
Gardner?
Yes.
Carmelo?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
And Watson?
Yes. Very good. So, Scott.
I guess the motion needs to also say to, did you say to accept it? Or just receive the budget, the capital budget?
It was
Receive it.
to receive it.
Didn't the last sentence of the order approve it?
We're talking about which one? The,
Order to receive the capital budget from the budget committee.
3125.
Just want to make sure that it's done correctly.
We didn't accept it, we just received it.
We don't.
First motion?
Yes.
I'd like to amend order number 3125 for a revote.
Great.
That we accept the budget committee's recommendations as proposed.
Thank you. Oh, it's been, motion was made.
Can you say
Second.
that again?
What are we doing?
Can you repeat it, please?
They read it wrong.
Order number 3125, where we're receiving the budget committee's recommendations on the fiscal year 26 capital budget. Pursuant to the recommendations, they accepted all of our recommendations. And that we accept it as they have proposed. And that we then approve it. And we revote.
Motion's made. I second that.
We've already voted saying we received it. That's what we do every year. We received it. We, to my knowledge, we don't accept, we receive. Is that correct? Their recommendations.
You initially receive it, and then in the body of the order, there's a clause that says, order that the town council votes on the budget committee's recommendations as follows. So on sometimes you would review particular recommendations and accept or not. So you do need to accept their recommendations.
Which they didn't make any for the capital.
Their recommendation was to move forward with the town council's presented recommendations.
But I thought we always just received their, that was a wording we've always used.
This is the standard order that we've used for a number of years. You do have to have a portion where you receive it, and then you accept what they presented.
So we've received it, now we'll just accept it.
Right.
Okay.
It's gone up and down over the years, let's face it. And whether you do one way or the other, you're still gonna see something and somebody's gonna be upset because they didn't get that amount of money. Well, that's life. That's life.
So it's been moved and seconded for that, so let's have a roll call on accepting the recommendations.
Christie,
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Pomelo,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
and Watson.
Yes.
By this.
Before we leave, can I say something? I appreciate all the work that you guys do. I understand it's a volunteer board. I've watched all of your minutes. I would just really have you refrain from calling out staff. I watched all the meetings, and to be told the staff are silly, did a bad job, horrible job, grants aren't hard, and use a sleight of hand is just not constructive. It was quotes from the meeting. And so I would just say to be positive. I've already talked to staff about maybe making some better notes for next year. All the staff were here, were willing to answer questions, but just to be like factual. I love questions, but just to not call out staff. They do a really good job. We're all serving the same community. I'm here every day with them. They try their best. Staff was really frustrated and sad to watch some of those meetings. So happy to answer anything. I know that you guys have sent questions. Scott and I have worked with staff to answer them the best we can, but just to be mindful of that going forward, please.
I would like to add to that. I watched the meeting and I was the chair, I think, needed to refrain from attacking department heads. We don't do it in this council, and I'm amazed that it got carried on as much as it did, like it was almost a vendetta. So, yeah, I will agree with you. I watched it and I thought it was very distasteful at times what was said. Thank you.
Mr. Paul.
But to respond to that, the chair did not do that.
I've watched the tape. Have you watched the tape?
I was there.
Okay, you should
The
watch
chair
it. You
did
should
not
review,
say
you should
any of
review
those
the tape,
things.
Joe. It was carried on and it should have been stopped. That's what I'm saying.
Not the chair,
Well, he should have stopped.
not the chair.
Well, he should have
The
stopped. the
chair
process.
never said that.
I said he should have stopped the process going as it was being said. That's what I'm saying.
So make a motion to adjourn
And
this morning. I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Second.
All in favor of adjourning?
no,
Yes.
I don't understand this. I didn't see this.
I didn't.
And I see where that goes, and every time you as a chair, this is something there, and you hammer them down and say, that's not proper in this, and I won't take care of it. We've got the 5-minute idea, but I understand what she's saying, and we work hard and we go through. We know you work hard, because I've watched you, and I've got good ideas in doing it. And I've been there 4 times before, and it's the first time I've heard it. Usually we do it, we accept, go through. I know some of the things that have been asked for, we didn't approve it. But next time it comes along and it's going to be another, and usually somebody will come and with a recommendation, say we got a little money. We'll ask Scotty, is there something there? We make a motion and do it. But to do that stuff, a lot of people saw that meeting. I didn't do it. I've got a few problems I've had. That's one I missed. But I'll tell you one thing. If I hear that's going on, when I had the chair for 3 times, hey, we always do it, and you've got it now. And what you said tonight, I agree with that 100%. And I appreciate what you do, and I've enjoyed it, what you've been going through, especially you on the bicycle.
Due respect, you're doing exactly what you asked somebody not to do on public TV. You are reprimanding the entire board. This could have been handled off screen. And also, when you're this chair position is new, there is a learning curve. This is the kind of suggestions that could have been taken off camera.
Mm-hmm.
So you just did exactly what you said that we did. So just moving forward, it's good to recognize that stuff, and it 100% should be addressed, but it's probably better to do it off camera when, so the town doesn't think that there's all kinds of shenanigans happening. It's not a good image.
The public thinks we are to do shenanigans anyway.
Yeah, well, that's true.
That's you help give me that one.
Okay, Terry, you okay with adjourning now?
We adjourn now.
Yes, thank
Okay.
you, sir.
Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.